Hello, dear language learners. How are you? I want to propose a new approach to language learning today. What I'm going to tell you today is not the best way to learn languages, or the most pleasant, or the most interesting way, but it's the fastest way to learn a language. A short explanation. My core technique is taking a lesson text of, let's say, 1 minute, more or less, doing 3 sessions a day of around 3 minutes. It's more or less 10 minutes a day, and the repetitions work in the following way. I give you an example for Italian. I have a text, this one.
Dialogo 3. Stamattina mi sono alzato troppo tardi. Cosa vuol dire stamattina? Era quasi mezzogiorno.
So, I have my text here. I now have it in a digital way, but I prefer really have an outprint. What do? I first, in the morning, I repeat it word per word, really the most exact possible. Stamattina mi sono alzato troppo tardi. Stamattina mi sono alzato troppo tardi. I do this with a short lesson text, as I said, and at midday I do a version that is really different. Different, that means I don't focus anymore in the right pronunciation. I focus on the melody and the rhythm of the whole sentence. Let's see how this works.
Dialogo 3. Stamattina mi sono alzato troppo tardi. Cosa vuol dire stamattina?
Stamattina mi sono alzato troppo tardi. Cosa vuol dire stamattina? You see, I just do the melody, and I don't manage to pronounce very good in this speed the same thing, so I do it only the melody. And in the evening, I do the same thing for trying to join the two things. That means the most correct pronunciation that I manage to produce, and the most correct melody of the sentence. I do the same thing for several days, normally for 3, 4, or even 6 or 7 days when it's a difficult text. And normally after 3 days or a week, you're really able to reproduce what you heard before. And the result is a little bit like this. I always read along with what I hear. With what I hear, excuse me. The result of 1 week is more or less this. I will demonstrate it. Stamattina mi sono alzato troppo tardi. Cosa vuol dire stamattina? Era quasi mezzogiorno. Devo aver bevuto troppo ieri sera. Beh, ora devo sbrigarmi se voglio prendere l'autobus. Ma non ho ancora fatto colazione. You see, after a certain time, it's really fluent. Okay, in this case, I'm already at a higher level of B1 or B2 or something. In the beginning, this is slower. This is totally obvious. Okay, I want to tell you something about my experience at school. My observation has been at the times, and research confirms it a little bit, that humans generally are very bad at learning random stuff. That means lists of words, verb forms, and grammar issues. And later on, I studied linguistics too. Research came to the conclusion that it works much better learning in context. That's why all school lesson books today are made up with context. First lesson is about presenting yourself, knowing people. Second one about shopping and so on. I learned English, French, even Latin this way at the times at school, as everybody did. But we know today that traditional school learning isn't very efficient. Most of our students, after 1 year, or let's say 3 hours a week for a year, don't speak enough to have a fluent conversation, not even about basic topics. As I was especially bad at learning languages this old way at school, with these gigantic lists of grammar items and words, I wanted to find something that works for me. And maybe I'm a little bit inspired by the fact that I'm a musician too and a music teacher too. And I will give you an example to show how music learning works and how it should be in language, because language is a sequence of sounds. And I have a melody that is tico tico and works like this. So you saw the second part doesn't work really nice. What do? You slow it down. You take just a part of it. Then you take the whole context. And then you speed up. And you make it always a little bit faster until fluency. Like in language, in music too, if you don't have the right rhythm and the context of the sounds, it doesn't sound nice and people don't understand you. That's the problem. And for me, it's a bit, in music, you wouldn't ever think that it's very useful. Oh, it's useful to know scales and music theory, but nobody will ever think study more scales and more music theory to play that piece. It works doing it and repeating it. In music, it's not 10 times, it's 50 times or 100 times. So let's go forward. The interesting thing is that when you learn in context with my technique and you learn a new word, like let's say forget in German, vergessen, esquecer Portuguese, oublier en français, dimenticare in italiano, olvidar in español. So what I did is a little bit adapting my knowledge about music learning to language learning. And I found out that just repeating the main text of a lesson, speaking out loudly while listening and reading along, with some looks at the grammar and vocabulary, of course, I do this. I look at the grammar, I look at these lists of verb forms. But doing it with a concrete text in a context provides you much better understanding, a nice pronunciation, and a better and effortless memorization of the vocabulary in a very short time.